Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is an important editorial. It is related to environment, it is related to plastic pollution. Any editorial related to environment, you have to read very carefully. You have to develop contextual awareness. There is every possibility to get in prelims or mains as a passage or close test or parajumble. Let us start with the question, what is enrichment? Comprehension skill, vocabulary, grammar, effective English, mini mocks as usual. Here, if you start with the question, what is this editorial about? This editorial discusses the challenges and complexities surrounding or related to the Global Plastics Treaty. It is all, good morning to all of you once again. It is all about Global Plastics Treaty. When you know it is about a treaty, you have to guess the broad framework. What is this treaty? When did it come into existence? What are the objectives? What are the member countries? And what are the objections? All these dimensions are touched. What is the tone of the editorial? The tone of the editorial is informative and analytical. But here the editorial takes a particular stand. Editorial says we cannot think of banning or stopping plastic pollution without investing in alternatives and affordability. We'll go to editorial vocabulary. Today we have 10 plus words. The very first word, treaty. Treaty, part of speech noun, a formally concluded and ratified agreement between countries. Better word would have been among countries, formally concluded and ratified. Ratified means agreed. A particular agreement among countries. Here there is one important word, formal. When we talk about English, we use two terms. One formal, formal English. The other informal English. What is formal English? Language used at the workplace, that means office, factory, company, and language used with elders and strangers. That is formal English. What is informal English? Language used with members of family and friends. Here, formally concluded and ratified agreement between countries. Synonyms, agreement, pact, an important word. Accord also you can say it has other meanings. Convention usually goes with a meeting. Compact also not relevant here. Antonyms, disagreement, not exactly. Disagreement, breach, rupture. Breach we have got many a time. It goes with crack, a concrete structure. It also means violation of rules and regulations. And rupture goes with everyday English. Imagine violate. Imagine I got hurt and it started healing. But all of a sudden, someone touches or something touches, and then there's a rupture. That's a different meaning altogether. Disagreement, conflict. Look at the example. The peace treaty. Treaty is a noun. Peace treaty ended years of hostility between the two nations. Two nations between, right. Hostility. You have to recollect words like hostile, enmity, and antagonistic. All the three words are important. Breach, break the law, that's right. Unfriendly. Hostile, enmity, antagonistic. All the three words are important. The next word, ambitious. This goes with you people. Ambitious youth. Youngsters have to be ambitious. Ambition, noun. Ambitious youth. Ambitious adjective. What is the typical combination? It goes with you guys. Ambitious youth. What does it mean? Part of speech, obviously adjective. Having or showing a strong desire and determination to succeed or achieve something great, not something ordinary. You're trying for something great, you work very hard, you strive a lot, then that is ambition. Synonyms, you're all aspirants, aspiring, determined, eager, driven. One important expression, goal oriented. When you use expressions like this one, goal oriented, you will get more marks in descriptive English paper, essay, or letter writing. Antonyms, lazy, all negative words. Lazy, unambitious, content. Two important words. Apathetic does not go with this context. Apathetic, apathetic means callous, also stony. No emotions when someone is suffering. Then we say apathetic. We also use words like callous, stony. Not exactly a synonym here, but there are two important words, content and complacent. The other day, someone used the word complacency. Contented person, you have to know the combination as well, the word form. Contented person. Complacency is a noun form. Complacency. Usually we say a stoic is different, Vijay Lakshmi. Stoic is a positive word, whereas callous, stony are negative words. What is the difference, you may ask? Callous or stony, someone is suffering, I'm not bothered. I'm like a stone, callous, negative words. Coming to the word stoic, there's a philosophy, stoicism, practiced in Eastern countries, especially Japan and China. What is the stoicism or stoic nature, which is an entirely positive word? Whether positive or negative, you are the same person. Usually, when we come across good news, we try to celebrate. Bad news, we get depressed. But a stoic person, either positive or negative, remains the same, balanced, composed, and stoic. A positive word, do remember. Complacency, contented person. Being happy with what you have, but that is not good in a way. If you have complacency, you cannot go to the higher level. Based on that, we say complacency is dangerous. Don't be happy, but don't stop there. You have to raise your standards, you have to aspire for higher goals. The next word, if you read the newspapers, quite often you come across the word curb, part of speech verb. To restrain, more than restrain, I would rather prefer the word control or restrict or limit. These are better words because two words. One is restrain, immediately you have to recollect a refrain. Both take the preposition from. A restrain from, a refrain from. Ah, exactly. Very good, Vijay Lakshmi. I appreciate that. There should be no room for complacency, a typical expression used at the workplace quite often. I really appreciate that. What are the synonyms? Restrain, control, check, inhibit, restrict. Antonyms: encourage, promote, unleash. Already we have got. Unleash your potential. Always I tell the youngsters, you have a lot of potential, talent. You have to unleash that one, means bring it out. Indulge. Indulge has another connotation. Example, the government implemented new policies to curb. Usually, curb goes with some problem. Curb pollution in the city. Curb something, malpractices. Curb something negative should be there. What is the next word? Contentious. Contentious, I think we have already got. Controversial, part of speech adjective. It takes a word combinations, contentious issue. British English, issue. American English, issue. Don't think it is wrong. That goes with Americans. Meaning, causing or likely to cause an argument. Simple word, contentious issue means controversial issue. What are the synonyms? Controversial, disputable, debatable. Contentious repeated. Polemical, an important word you have to spend some time after the session. Only then you will be able to remember. Antonyms: agreeable, peaceful, harmonious, uncontroversial, non-contentious, all simple words. Look at the example. The issue of gun control. This goes with the US context, gun culture. The issue of gun control or gun culture is highly contentious and often leads to heated debates. That's the reason why, pugnacious, that's a very good word, busy like. That is the reason why they're not able to uh, get away with gun culture in the US. 50% in favor of gun culture, 50% not in favor of. They're not able to decide. Consensus, I'm sure you all know. Part of speech, noun. General agreement among a group of people. Synonyms: agreement, harmony, unity, concurrence. Important word. Accord, it has other meanings, but it's also an important word. Antonyms: disagreement, discord. You have to recollect apple of discord. Dissent. Ascent, descent. Ascent, ASCENT. Ascent of man. There is a title also. Going up, coming down, descent. But here, what is the spelling? DISSENT. Means opposition, contention, division. Example: after much discussion, the committee reached a consensus on the new policy. Means all the people agreed, same stand they have taken. Good morning, rather late. A veto can be a noun, can be a verb. Means what? A constitutional right to reject a decision or proposal made by a lawmaking body. A lawmaking body comes up with a resolution, but someone has a power to reject that or make it null and void. Then we use the word veto. It can be a verb, it can be a noun. And as a verb, it's a regular verb. Synonyms: reject, forbid. Forbid, actually, there's one expression you guys have to know. Have you heard of this? Forbidden city. Where is this forbidden city? It is in China. Forbid means to prevent, disallow, overrule. Generally, I say veto means overrule. Someone takes a decision, you overrule that decision. Antonyms: approve, accept, endorse. Endorse goes more with a product and celebrities. That particular celebrity endorses that particular product. Publicly support. Permit, support, easy words. The president has the power to veto legislation passed by Congress. Congress has passed a resolution, and the president of the US has the power to veto it, to make it null or null and void, or to reject it. No one has responded. Have you heard of the expression forbidden city? Proponent. Proponent, part of speech, noun, singular, proponent, proponents of the theory, plural, means a person who advocates for a theory, proposal, or course of action. In a way, you suggest, never heard, thanks for responding. No problem. It is in China, forbidden city. And you propose something, you propose a theory, then you are the proponent of that particular theory. Synonyms: advocate, supporter, champion. Advocate, immediately you have to recollect. Advocate is a noun. Lawyer, attorney, solicitor, all these words. But here, as a verb, someone who supports a particular thing. Supporter, champion. Champion, again, two meanings. One, it goes with the field of sports, the realm of sports, but here, champion of the cause, fight for a particular problem to find a solution. Defender, promoter. Antonyms: opponent, critic, adversary, we have already got. Detractor, important word. Enemy. Last time I brought one particular editorial along with that. First, we got the word adversary, then we got the word adverse. If you guys remember, we have got these words already. Example: she is a strong proponent of renewable energy and sustainability. Strong proponent of, enemy means foes, friends and foes. Good, Tejashri, I appreciate that. Reminiscent takes a preposition of, reminiscent of. You have to remember that. Means what? Remind you of something. Part of speech adjective, meaning tending to remind one of something evocative or suggestive of something. Synonyms: suggestive, evocative, redolent, an important word. This has been repeated. Another word form. Antonyms: forgettable, but these words I don't consider. Unrelated, dissimilar, unconnected, irrelevant. You can remember forgettable. The smell of fresh baked cookies was reminiscent of her childhood. That means the moment she got that smell of fresh baked cookies, she thought of her childhood. You can also use the word reminded her of her childhood. Reminiscent of her childhood. Reminiscent, a better word. Reminded of, a simple expression. Enshrine. Shrine has got the religious significance, sacred, holy, and it also goes with constitution. Enshrine, part of speech verb. Shrine is a noun. To preserve or protect something as if in a shrine. Shrine is a noun. To cherish or keep sacred. As I said, it has got, please listen to this, and at the fag end of the session, you ask these questions because the flow will get affected. Other students may get distracted. When I do the analysis, please listen carefully, try to enrich your language proficiency. Personal questions, questions related to the institute, ask at the fag end of the session. Then I'll be able to answer. There won't be any distraction. Sanctity also, you can sanctify. Good, Vijayalakshmi. Preserve, protect, cherish. I was talking about cherish. I cherish my childhood. What does it mean? Whenever I think of my childhood, I feel very happy. Means I have nice feelings. I enjoy thinking of my childhood. Cherish your childhood. Cherish your college days. Antonyms: neglect, abandon, we have got many a time. Desecrate, a new word, you have to remember this. Dishonor, disregard, not respecting someone. The values of equality and freedom are enshrined in the Constitution. As I said, it goes with Constitution. The values of equality, freedom are enshrined in the Constitution. A good example. Privileged. Generally, we say privileged people or privileged group or privileged lot. Means what? Privileged people means those who are usually rich and famous. They have certain privileges. Privilege means an exclusive right. Look at the meaning of this: having special rights, advantages, or immunities. Synonyms: advantaged people, elite. Already we have got many a time. Very good. You have added that. Fortunate, favored, affluent. Affluent means rich. The word affluent goes with countries, families, and also groups, societies. Antonyms: disadvantaged, simple word. Underprivileged, an important word. Oppressed, an important word. Deprived, an important word. Impoverished, an important word. Usually what happens, wealthy, simple word, you can say Tejashri, good. What happens when you come across synonyms, antonyms, sometimes synonyms are easy. Sometimes antonyms you come across new words, important words. In my opinion, all these words are very important. When it comes to essay writing, you have to use, when you talk about inclusive growth, you have to use words like underprivileged, downtrodden. These words fetch a lot of marks. Underprivileged, oppressed, deprived, impoverished. Look at the example. Growing up in a wealthy family, he was privileged with access to the best education and opportunities. Because he belongs to a wealthy family, obviously he can have access to the best education in the world and also better opportunities. It's a fact no one can deny. Moot. Mute is different, moot is different. Part of speech verb, it can be a noun, it can be an adjective. Moot question, adjective. subject to debate, dispute, or uncertainty, no longer relevant or worth discussing. Second meaning. But usually it means moot question, means debatable, disputable. Look at the synonyms: debatable, disputable, arguable, questionable, unresolved. All are important words but easy ones. Antonyms: settled, decided, indisputable, certain, unquestionable. Example: the court dismissed the case as moot, means no longer relevant since because the law in question had been repealed, revoked, or ended. An important example, two, three words you can learn, one shot. I'm sure you all know the word transition. Transition means what? Change. And transition can be a noun, can be a verb. Here in the editorial, it has been used as a verb. It's a regular verb. What does it mean? Simple change. The process of changing or moving from one state or condition to another. From one state, you go to another state. That is nothing but transition. Changeover, conversion, shift, transformation, evolution. Simple words. Stagnation, important word. Stagnation goes with economy, growth, development, progress. No growth, stand still. Then we use stagnation. This is a simple word. Inertia, status quo, very important. And immobility, not that important. There is one thing you have to know here based on the word inertia. What is that? Political inertia. This is a problem in the US and in our country also, perhaps about 20%. If you take the intellectuals of a particular society, who is an intellectual? A knowledgeable person. Many intellectuals don't prefer casting the vote. They never vote. When they don't vote or use the right, they don't cast the vote, that is known as political inertia. In fact, in the US, if I'm not wrong, it is about 40%. They have this political inertia. They never vote. They don't trust the system. In our country, the number is going up. About 20% intellectuals or the intelligentsia, intellectuals of a particular country or society, they don't cast the vote. Never. That is precisely what we call political inertia. Have you heard of this any time? Political inertia? Please respond. An important expression you have to know. The company is transitioning. Here it has been used in present continuous, changing, to renewable energy sources to reduce its carbon footprint. Useful, never heard. Important, you got to remember. That's all about the editorial vocabulary. Let us go to the editorial itself. How does it start? What is a stimulus? A particular treaty, that is a stimulus. Plastic solution. When we talk about plastic, obviously, political vendetta is different. Vendetta means a revenge. That's a different thing entirely. One politician tries to attack another politician once he comes to power. That is known as a political vendetta or revenge or avenge. That is entirely different. Okay, fine. Inertia is a physics term. You're right. Who is this Srinu? Actually, the word inertia goes with physics. But here, political inertia, a different connotation, a different meaning altogether. Beyond the Global Plastics Treaty. Whenever we talk about a problem that goes with the environment, pollution, air pollution, water pollution, plastic pollution, we have to talk about the solution. Here, the editor takes a stand and says, these treaties alone cannot find a solution. Along with the treaties, we have to invest in alternatives and we have to consider the affordability factor. There are two dimensions: investment in alternatives and affordability. These two will bring in the change. Mere treaties will not bring the solution. We have to go beyond the Global Plastics Treaty. What is the main idea? Plastic pollution cannot be ended. Answer my question: is it active voice or passive voice? Plastic pollution cannot be ended by treaties without investment in alternatives. What it says, editor has taken a stand. The stance is, We cannot end plastic pollution merely going in for treaties. Along with treaties, we should focus on alternatives, investment in alternatives, and affordability factor. Plastic pollution cannot be ended. This is in passive voice. Very good. Whenever you come across active voice, passive voice, direct, indirect, immediately you think what it could be in active voice. We cannot end something. Make it simple. We cannot end something, active voice. Something cannot be ended by us, passive voice. That should be crystal clear in your mind. Same thing goes with speech also. Cannot be ended by treaties. What else are we supposed to do without investment in alternatives? This is the main idea. Based on that stand, mere treaties won't find a solution to plastic waste or plastic pollution. We have to invest in alternatives and we have to focus on affordability. With that broad main idea, it takes us in a particular direction. And before you read, you have to guess the broad framework. Any editorial that deals with a treaty, you have to ask pertinent questions, relevant questions like what is this treaty? When did it come into existence? And how many countries are members, how many nations are members, and what is the main goal or main objective of the treaty, and what are the objections whenever there is a treaty, whenever there is a convention. Many countries join hands, some countries oppose, some countries support. What are the countries opposing countries, what are the supporting countries, and what are the deadlines? Usually when we talk about air pollution, water pollution, plastic pollution, we talk about the time frames, we talk about the deadlines. What are the deadlines, what are the years, and what is the stand taken by the editorial regarding all this? This is a broad framework. How does it start? The Global Plastics Treaty, an ambitious initiative involving at least 175 United Nations member nations to eliminate the use of plastics, concluded its fourth round of negotiations recently. This is a very useful sentence from the exam point of view. I always tell students when you read the editorial or the newspaper, you have to read analytically. You have to be a smart reader. There are two levels of reading. One is to comprehend, that is a lower level of intellectual caliber. Second one, analytical reading, that is a higher level of intellectual caliber. When you read analytically, a lot of questions pop up. Looking for the answer for those questions, you read the editorial. And here, language proficiency point of view, when you read a sentence like this, there's a potential, every possibility to get in the exam. You may ask, sir, why? The Global Plastics Treaty, this is a subject. But after that, an ambitious initiative involving at least 175 United Nations member nations to eliminate the use of plastics. These are all phrases for additional information. But what is the subject? It's a noun phrase. The Global Plastics Treaty. Treaty is singular. Based on that, they have used a past tense. Concluded, the treaty concluded its fourth round of negotiations recently. But there is a flaw here. What is the flaw? I usually tell students while teaching present perfect tense, I tell them there are 5 uses. One of the uses, when we use words like recently, lately, already, yet, we have to use present perfect tense. But here the word recently is there. I prefer the sentence to be the Global Plastics Treaty has concluded recently. That would have been a better expression. But the writer has used past tense. Better thing would have been present perfect tense. It talks about the treaty and how many countries, what is the objective to eliminate the use of plastics, concluded recently its fourth round of negotiations. As I said, any organization, any treaty, any convention, we talk about the goal, the objective. The sentence talks about the goal. The goal is to finalize a legal document. What is the goal here? To finalize a legal document by the end of 2024 with timelines. They are trying to finalize a legal document, and this legal document has the timelines or the deadlines for the countries to do certain things, by which time countries can do something. 4 things have been touched. First one, with timelines. What are the timelines? By when countries must agree to curb plastic production? First one. By when countries must agree to eliminate its uses that create wastage? Second one. Third one, by when the countries must agree to ban certain chemicals used in its production. Some chemicals are used in the production of plastic. When to ban all those chemicals? And the fourth one, by when the countries must agree to targets for recycling. All these talk about the timelines or the deadlines. Whenever a particular treaty or a convention or an agreement talks about deadlines or timelines, there is every possibility some countries oppose. That is quite natural, inevitable. Unfortunately, an agreement is not in sight. Obviously, resistance. Not in sight, an important expression. Nowhere in sight, you can say that also. Means they haven't found a solution yet. There is yet another round of, based on, because they haven't found a solution yet, another round, they're going to go in for another round. There is yet another round of negotiations scheduled in Busan, South Korea, this November. 2024 is the deadline, mind you guys. They are going to meet in the month of November and they have to work on the final legal document with timelines. Why couldn't they get a solution? Some reasons. Usually, when we talk about objections, they could be political, they could be economic, they could be social, they could be cultural. But here, economic. The primary hurdles are economic. Already we have got the word hurdles so many times. Hurdles, hindrances, impediments, blocks, bottlenecks, you have to recollect. Obviously, why economic? Today, when we talk about don't use plastic, easy to say, ban plastic. But we need an alternative product. And to get an alternative product, we need accessibility, we need technology transfer, we need know how, we need affordability. All these factors are very important. Simply, we cannot say stop plastic. Only once we have the alternative, we can think of stopping plastic. Oil producing, and what are the objections and what are the countries? Oil producing and refining countries. Here we have two categories of countries. One oil producing, the other one oil refining. Oil producing and refining countries such as Saudi Arabia, the US, Russia, and India and Iran are reluctant about the hard deadlines. Reluctant, unwilling. They are not happy with the hard deadlines. What is the reason? Alternatives are not there. Without alternatives, you tell someone to stop something, that is not acceptable. Reluctant, unwilling, hard deadlines to eliminate plastic production. This is opposition. But supporting that in a way, a coalition. Coalition means many parties or groups come together, work for a common cause. Coalition government. Usually it goes with politics. You all know that. But here, a coalition of African countries supported by several European nations is in favor of a year. 2024 is the deadline. Perhaps they want to extend for one more year. Around 2040, that is a deadline to make everything is streamlined and the targets are met. To ensure that a timeline for reduction is in effect. Is in effect, that is also important. There is also disagreement on whether contentious elements in the treaty should be decided on by a vote or consensus, the latter implying that every country has a veto. Usually, whenever there is what does the sentence say? Whenever there is a controversial issue, we have to decide. 175 countries and controversial issues. How can they decide? They have two options. One, they can go for voting, and majority they take the decision. That is democratic process. The other, veto. Here, veto means one country says no, the whole thing falls flat. On that basis, whether to go in for voting or veto, they haven't agreed upon. There is some sort of disagreement. There is also disagreement on whether contentious elements in the treaty should be decided on by a vote or consensus. The latter, important word. You have to know two words. I don't know how many of you know. I have already touched, but how many of you remember? Tell me what is the difference between former, latter, double T. Later goes with time. That is different. Yes, Tejashri, very good. Busy life, very good. Here, former means first in position, one of the meanings. And latter means second in position. Here, what is a former? Vote is a former. And what is a latter? Consensus is the latter. Once they say consensus, if one country disagrees, it is like vetoing, making it null and void. India's opinion. Now it talks about India's opinion. India's opinion, other than being uncomfortable with binding targets, already reluctant when it comes to hard deadlines, India's opinion, other than being uncomfortable with binding targets, is that a legally binding instrument to end the plastic pollution must also address. This is what I was talking about. When you say we have to stop plastic pollution, you have to provide an alternative. And without that alternative, it is not possible to stop abruptly. When we talk about the alternative, that means don't use plastic, use something else. We need to have the technology. We need to have the investment ability, financial this thing, and we should be able to make it affordable. Usually, these go with developed countries, affluent countries. Based on that, India's stand, a legally binding instrument to end the plastic pollution must also address certain problems. What are the problems? Availability, accessibility, affordability of alternatives, including cost implications and specifying arrangements. Why should they focus on these? Why should they address these things? What are the three things? Availability, accessibility, affordability. For capacity building and technical assistance, technology transfer, and also financial assistance. Alternative to plastic, developed countries, imagine affluent countries, developed countries, they have that. Then they have to transfer that technology, the know how, to other countries and also provide financial assistance. That goes with the particular principle of climate talks. Next sentence talks about that. When India says all this, along with this, some other countries also, along with India, this language, availability, affordability, those key words, accessibility, this language, and India is not the only proponent, some other countries are there, is reminiscent of, it reminds of a particular principle, of the principle of common but differentiated responsibility. Countries have common responsibility, but some countries have differentiated responsibilities. What are those countries? Affluent countries, developed countries, those with the technology, enshrined in the climate talks. And what does it mean? The editorial tries to elaborate, explain, justify. Under this, countries must have a common target, but those more privileged, here privileged means advanced countries, developed countries, must support others and take on stricter targets themselves. One thing, they must support other countries. Second, they themselves must take stricter targets. In the year that the Plastics Treaty was mooted past tense passive voice in 2022, India brought into effect the Plastic Waste Management Amendment Rules 2021 that banned 19 categories of single-use plastics. This talks about a particular amendment, and based on that, 19 categories were banned. But but they talk about contrasting information. It, however, does not include plastic bottles, even those less than 200 ml, and multi-layered packaging boxes, as in milk cartons. Though 19 categories have been banned, two things not included. What are the two things? One, the small bottles, plastic bottles, even 200 ml, and the other one, multi-layered packaging boxes used in milk cartons. Moreover, in addition to that, even the ban on single-use plastic items is not uniformly enforced nationally, with several outlets continuing to retail these goods. That particular ban not implemented throughout the country uniformly. Some places they are still being used. The global distribution of this is something disturbing. Now the sentence talks about, according to one particular report, NGO, Earth Action, four countries contribute to 60% of the world plastic pollution. What are the four countries? Unfortunately, India is also there. The global distribution of plastic pollution is unequal, with Brazil, China, India, and the US responsible for 60% of plastic waste. Four countries responsible for 60% of plastic waste: Brazil, China, India, and the US. According to a report by the non-profit EA, Earth Action. Much like how transitioning away from fossil fuel invites its own challenges, sometime back this was in the limelight. Don't depend on fossil fuels, depend on renewable sources of energy, depend on non conventional sources of energy. It had its own problems. Like that, editorial says this also will have problems and challenges. Much like how transitioning away from fossil fuel invites its own challenges, plastic pollution cannot be ended. Main idea is being reiterated. Plastic pollution cannot be ended by merely signing treaties. By signing treaties, we cannot end plastic pollution. What are we supposed to do? The main idea, the stand taken by the editorial. There needs to be much greater investment in alternative products, one thing, and making them affordable, another thing, before realistic targets are decided upon. Yes, merely, only, sheer. Before we think of realistic targets, two things we have to work on. One is greater investment in alternative products, and second dimension, making them affordable. Affordability is also very important. That's all about the editorial. An important one you got to read twice or thrice to develop contextual awareness. Now let us go to, you have listened to me, let us go to questions based on comprehension skill. The very first question. According to the editorial, which principle, reminiscent of climate talks, emphasizes a need for countries to support others and take on stricter targets themselves? Easy to answer. No, not B. Usually, okay, you respond. No, it is not. You all have the same wavelength except busy life. It talks about a particular principle. What is that principle? Common but differentiated responsibility. Clearly mentioned in the editorial. It is not B. Answer is C. Principle reminiscent of climate talks. What is that? It is common but differentiated responsibility. C is the answer. No, 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 not B, not D. C is the answer. No second thoughts about that. According to a report cited in the editorial, which countries are collectively responsible for 60% of plastic waste? Disturbing fact, because India is there. Brazil, China, India, and the US. These four countries are responsible for 60% of plastic waste. B, you guys got it right. Question number 3. What does the editorial propose as a necessary step beyond signing treaties to address plastic pollution effectively? The main idea of the editorial, we cannot end plastic pollution with the help of treaties, we have to go beyond. What is that solution? Increasing plastic production, implementing stricter penalties, investing in alternative products, and making them, the second dimension, affordable. Answer is C. Good, you guys got it right. What is the primary concern raised by India? Not by the editorial, by India and other proponents regarding the Global Plastics Treaty. Lack of diplomatic support for the treaty, insufficient regulations, economic implications, and accessibility of alternatives. 4 also C. India objected on the grounds of affordability, availability, accessibility, economic implications, and accessibility of alternatives. The last question, based on the editorial comprehension skill, what is the stance of African countries supported by several European nations regarding the timeline for reducing? Again, a question based on explicit information, easy to answer. They advocate for immediate no. They propose a flexible timeline around 2040, clearly mentioned. Based on that, B is the answer. Try to spot the errors. Three questions, error location, to be on the track, to have that mindset to answer the questions. Celebrities showed their childlike side yesterday, as most of them turned up wearing cartoon t shirts for the screening of the latest animated film in town. Mention the question number. First one, error location. Where is the error? Which part? And what is wrong with that part? Vijay Lakshmi, first one to respond, says second part. You got it right, but what is wrong with the second part? If you mention that, I'll be very happy. And it will help you in the long run. Simply second part, I do appreciate, but what exactly wrong with the second part? Who is this? Oh, thank you very much, Kaushik. You're watching from the US. Glad to know that you're still passionate about learning, improving your proficiency. Glad to know that. Thank you very much. What is wrong here? Celebrities showed their childlike. Childlike is not correct. We have to say childish. Childish behavior. There's nothing like childlike. What are we supposed to say? Childish behavior. Celebrities showed their childish side yesterday. Childish side, childish behavior. That is a correct word form. Nothing wrong with other parts. Let us go to question number 2, based on error location. Airline management should note that the ultimate passenger unfriendliness is to have their planes crash due to the adopted of unsafe procedures. B. Some students say fourth part, some say second part. There is an error in the fourth part. But what is wrong with the fourth part? Airline management should note that, nothing wrong. The ultimate passenger unfriendliness is, what is it? To have their planes crash due to the adopted of. Adopted is not the right word. Who is that? Vijay Lakshmi. Now I appreciate. Adoption of. Tejashri also. We have to say adoption of, not adopted of. Adoption of unsafe procedures. Perfect. Very good. I appreciate that. The third question, based on your grammar knowledge, error location, celebrating its 10 long years in the industry, a private entertainment channel announces a series of programs at a press conference. This is based on contextual awareness. Read, understand the context, then it becomes easy to spot the error. Celebrating its 10 long years in the industry, a private entertainment channel announces a series of programs at a press conference. No one has responded. Third part, what is wrong? Third part, there's an error, but what is wrong? Here it talks about at a press conference means already over. We cannot use the verb in the present form. It should be in the past form. Based on that, a private entertainment channel announced a series of programs at a press conference. Yes, very good. I appreciate public demands, and Sirisha also announced. That is the correct word form. Let us go to the last slide, but important. Based on idioms, we have 5 idioms, and these have been given many a time: SBI, IBPS, RRBPO. Try to get all the 5 correct. Dark horse, at daggers drawn, elbow room, El Dorado, very important. Fag end, I use every day. Thanks for being with me till the fag end of the session. You have got it here. What does it mean? Dark horse goes with elections. Politics, elections. At the time of elections, a particular candidate, no one expects that candidate to win. With less prospects, candidate with doubtful chances of success. First one is what? Donald Trump was a dark horse. No one expected Trump to win the US elections. And that time, this idiom was in the limelight. Dark horse means a candidate with doubtful chances of success. At daggers drawn. At daggers drawn, always at loggerheads. Both mean the same. Disagreeing all the time, fighting all the time. Openly hostile. Different words have been used. D. Elbow room means what? Space in which one can move freely. Also, work freely. Not only the literal meaning, elbow room means you can think freely, you can work freely. Based on that, E is the answer. El Dorado, that is an imaginary land, an imaginary land of plenty and prosperity, no problems, no suffering, nothing. What is the last one? Fag end of the session, last part of the session. You all should get this one, no second thoughts. Yes. Has anyone got all the 5 correct? If you say yes, sir, that's wonderful. You should be happy. That's all for today. Thanks for being with me till the fag end of the session. Have a nice day. Do remember, after the session, if you are not part of the Telegram group, join the Telegram group. The link has been provided. We will upload the PDF. You can access the PDF and try to work on important questions. Thank you very much. Once again, have a nice day.